California. We had heard so many stories. Stories of the great expanse of land, the lush vegetation, the forests and waters rich with animals. It was a dream of many men and women to make the journey to this promised land, the land of milk and honey. Anyone who made the journey had a story to tell, a story of their life back east or across the ocean in another country, a story of their journey to California, the hardships of traveling by sea or by prairie schooner along the Oregon Trail, a story of the loved ones left behind, and of those lost along the way, and stories of life in the new land, stories of adventure, of great wealth, of political fame, and of bad fortune. For many of us, the destination would be John Sutter's fort in Sacramento, California. Here we could find shelter, protection, a meal, and perhaps even a job. Some stayed at the fort, others chose to pass through it, and others still had a different destination for their journey. My family was one of the many who set out on the overland trail for Sutter's Fort, though the journey that brought us there is one of the most tragic you may ever hear. You see, my name is Virginia Reed, and my family traveled with the Donner Party. Our tale is one of sorrow and devastation, but it is also one of determination, strength, courage, and hope. We set out for California from Springfield, Illinois on April 15, 1846. We were a party of 31 people in 9 wagons. I was only 12 years old at the time, but never can I forget the morning when we bade farewell to kindred and friends. The Donner family was there, having driven in the evening before with their families, so that we might get an early start. We were surrounded by loved ones, and there stood all my little schoolmates who had come to kiss me goodbye. My father, with tears in his eyes, tried to smile as one friend after another grasped his hand in a last farewell. Mama was overcome with grief. At last, the drivers cracked their whips, the oxen moved slowly forward, and the long journey had begun. By June, we had reached Fort Laramie, Wyoming. There was a party of Sioux who were on the warpath going to fight the Crows or Blackfeet. The Sioux are fine-looking Indians, and I was not in the least afraid of them. They fell in love with my prized pony Billy, and set about bargaining to buy him. They brought buffalo robes and beautifully tanned buckskin, pretty beaded moccasins, and ropes made of grass, and placing these articles in a heap alongside several of their ponies, they made my father understand by signs that they would give them all for Billy and his rider. Papa smiled and shook his head. Then the number of ponies was increased, and as a last tempting inducement, they brought an old coat which had been worn by some poor soldier, thinking my father could not withstand the brass buttons. On the 6th of July, we were again on the march. The Sioux were several days in passing our caravan, not on account of the length of our train, but because there were so many Sioux. Owing to the fact that our wagons were strung so far apart, they could have massacred our whole party without much loss to themselves. Some of our company became alarmed, and the rifles were cleaned out and loaded, to let the warriors see that we were prepared to fight. But the Sioux never showed any inclination to disturb us. Their desire to possess my pony was so strong that at last I had to ride in the wagon and let one of the drivers take charge of Billy. This I did not like, and in order to see how far back the line of warriors extended, I picked up a large field glass which hung on a rack, and as I pulled it out with a click, the warriors jumped back, wheeled their ponies, and scattered. This pleased me greatly, and I told my mother I could fight the whole Sioux tribe with a spyglass. Along the trail, we had joined with a larger wagon train, and by August, our party consisted of 87 people and 23 wagons bound for California. Our party had determined to take the Hastings Cutoff, which, it was said, would make the journey 300 miles shorter, allowing us to arrive over a month early. The result would be the opposite. The Hastings Cutoff put us weeks behind schedule and left us beginning our crossing of the Sierra Nevada mountains in October. Adding to our misfortune, the snow began to fall right at this time, a month earlier than usual. Heavy snowstorms stranded our party in the Sierra Nevada for 5 months. Some families were able to find shelter in small cabins which had been built by pioneers before us. Other families, such as the Donners, did not have time to build cabins before the snowfall, and could only seek shelter from the blizzards in sheds made of brush. Entrapped by the heavy snow, we suffered starvation, illness, and even death. Some in the party even resorted to using the bodies of those in our party who had perished for food. This was only one of the many difficult choices our party faced for survival. Circumstances had sent my father and others ahead to Sutter's Fort, and they worked tirelessly to aid in our relief. With the support of John Sutter, rescue parties finally reached us on February 19, 1847. It took 4 rescue parties to bring the survivors to Sutter's Fort. In the end, only 46 of the 87 men, women, and children in our party survived. There was such misfortune and tragedy that it is often hard to speak of. But there were also times of happiness along the trail. The thrill of riding my pony out with my father each day, the camaraderie of circling our wagons at night to tell stories and sing songs around the campfire, the joy of seeing my dear little sister Patty carry her dolly with her through all our troubles, the excitement of finally reaching Sutter's Fort and seeing the beauty of California. This is only a small part of my whole story. There is much more to be told. You have not yet heard of the circumstances which separated my father from us, or the story of our rescue and arrival at Sutter's Fort, or of the events leading to my elopement, against my family's wishes, with John Murphy, who had traveled to California with the Townsend Stevens Murphy Party in 1844. Mine is only one of the many stories of pioneers who made the journey to Sutter's Fort. Stories full of hardship and stories full of hope. What will be your part in the history of Sutter's Fort and California? What will be your pioneer story?